What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel once again. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Asus ROG FLOW X16, which is their 2023 model. Now Asus doesn't make an upgraded 2024 model, which is why I picked up this one, which is a year old now. Now there are certainly better and more powerful laptops out there, but there aren't any that I can find that had exactly what I was looking for. Now, one of the main reasons I picked up this model is because I like the 2-in-1 laptops that feature a touchscreen with an active pen, so I can use it for digital sculpting without having to buy a separate drawing tablet like the Wacom or anything like that. I also wanted it to be able to handle all my photo, video editing needs, like using Premiere Pro, without having to use proxies because of that lag you'll get. Now, I'm not a fan of just sitting at a desk using a computer. I like to sit on my couch with the TV on in the background and freely work on my stuff. Or if I'm on the go, I can easily take my laptop with me and get the work done that I want. Now, I've built my own desktops in the past, but I found that I never really use them and they just end up sitting there. So I decided, let's stop using desktops and let's just focus more on using a laptop. Now, I have been using this HP Spectre X360 now since about 2020 when COVID all kind of started. And while it works okay, I get a ton of lag while I'm trying to edit video in Premiere Pro, and I always need to use proxies, which just adds on way more time because I have to run every video clip in Media Encoder, which is usually anywhere from 60 to 100 clips. Also, when I'm sculpting in Blender, as soon as I'm getting into a high poly count, and I'm talking like 2 or 3 million, I'll start to see lag, and it's really hard to sculpt really fine details when that happens. The HP also gets extremely hot. And by that, I mean that if I have this sitting on just my lap, it'll get so hot that it will burn my legs even through my pants and jeans or anything like that. Now, I'm not the only one that has complained about that, and it seems like everyone has the same issue, and there's really nothing you can really do about it other than maybe getting really like a cooling pad or something to put under it. Also, because the HP gets so hot, the chassis has also started to come apart in the front and separate, which is most likely because the battery is probably starting to swell, so I'll need to replace that soon. So let's take a look at the ROG FLOW X16 now and sort of compare the differences between the two. Now, I understand that the HP is 3 to 4 years older now than the Asus ROG FLOW, but I still want to compare them as the price is still very close to each other and they're both 2-in-1 laptops with touchscreens. On Amazon, the price for the HP model is still $22.99, while I picked up the Asus the other day for $23.99, so it's really only a $100 difference. So first, taking a look at the HP features a 15.6-inch touchscreen display, an Intel Core i7 9750H processor, an NVIDIA GTX 1650 GPU, 16 gigs of RAM, which, by the way, is not upgradable because it is soldered on, and it does have 1 terabyte hard drive. It only has one USB Type A, but it does have 2 USB Type C, but the problem with that is I constantly have to use a little connector, just like this right here, so I can attach things like my iPhone or mouse or 3D scanner or anything like that. It does have an HDMI port, micro SD card slot, and a headphone mic combo jack, but that's pretty much it. I won't go over every detail on it, but after using this for over 3 years now, I can honestly say that I'm not really impressed one bit, and I haven't been since day one. Now, I really do like the display and the fact that it has a full keyboard, which includes the 10 key, but to me, that's really the only 2 features that really make this laptop stand out. Now, looking at the Asus ROG FLOW, this features a 16-inch Nebula display, Intel Core i9 13900H processor, NVIDIA RTX 4070 GPU, 32 gigs of RAM, which is upgradable up to 64 gigs if you want to upgrade it, intelligent cooling, a 1 terabyte solid state drive, and it does have 2 USB Type A ports, 1 USB Type C port, which supports Thunderbolt 4 and allows you to charge the laptop as well. It does have 1 HDMI port, a micro SD card reader, and a 3.5mm audio jack combo. Along with that, it does have the XG mobile interface and Type-C combo port, which you could use if you want to upgrade your GPU and plug in the RTX 4090 or anything like that. Now, the Asus ROG FLOW was built for gaming, but I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be powerful enough to handle the tasks that I'm throwing at it, but that's what we're going to find out. Now, there's a whole lot of benchmark specs I can talk about between the two, but I'm not going to do that because honestly, it's really just not that important to me, and I just want to know if the laptop can handle what I'm throwing at it. Benchmark scores are usually just based on certain optimal environments, and when applying them to real-world scenarios, those scores don't really matter much, at least not to me they don't. I want to know if when I'm editing a video, I have 6 browsers open, running screen recording software, importing 75 clips, using transition, effects, overlays, on top of all that, that my computer isn't going to lag. Now, as you can see, both of these laptops are comparable in both size and weight. They weigh basically about the same. I can't really tell any difference just by holding them in my hand. I can tell though that the hinge on the ROG Flow is a lot more sturdy than it is on the HP. The HP just kind of tends to flop down, and I'll show you what I mean. I can pick it up and I give it a little shake, it just kind of flops down, as you can see. I give this a little shake and it still stays up quite a bit instead of staying completely flat. Now, since this review is more of the ROG Flow and not really a comparison video between the two, I won't really be focusing much on the HP, other than maybe a few side-by-sides and maybe a couple programs that you'll just kind of see the difference in when I'm using the two. So here you can see the unboxing of the ROG Flow and how it came packaged directly from the manufacturer. Now, I did order this directly through Asus and not through a third party like Amazon or Newegg or anything like that. It did come nicely packaged, and included was the laptop, the power supply, and warranty info. I also picked up the active pen, but that did come separately. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything installed on the ROG Flow and remove all the bloatware that comes with new computers these days that I just don't like McAfee, Microsoft 365, WhatsApp, Spotify, all that crap that you see all the time whenever you get a new computer, and there's a whole bunch of stuff on there that you just don't want. So I'm going to remove all that, and then we'll see how this all performs. Now, I won't be recording directly from the screen using any screen recording software, because all that's going to do is slow down the performance. So I'm just going to use a separate camera like the one I'm using now. I just will try and get it zoomed in so you can see it the best way, but that'll give you the best real world performance on how things are actually working when I'm inside of a certain program. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done, get all the software installed, and we'll be back right after that. Alright, so I got all the bloatware removed from the computer and all the programs that I'm just not going to be using removed, and I installed all the programs that I will most likely be using for the most part, which is like Premiere Pro, Photoshop, Blender, things like that. So I got those all installed, and one of the things that I noticed when I first powered this on was the fact that they have this Armory crate, which is this right here, and it basically lets you control your CPU and your GPU. And this is a really useful tool if you want to adjust your CPU or your GPU and you want to change it from performance to turbo or to silent, or in your GPU if you want to set it to just standard if you're not using like high-end gaming or programs that really is GPU extensive. Now, also inside Armory Crate on this left-hand sidebar, you can change things such as the wallpaper. If I wanted to click on this, I can change the backgrounds if I want to. I could also go into game library, or I can go into the color gamut if I want to change games for, depending on whether I'm doing racing or cinema, eye care, things like that. I can adjust that all as well. I can also change the colors on the RGB keyboard. So this really is a useful tool when it comes to monitoring your PC's performance. Adjusting fan speed is simple, your GPU, you can see your stats, and your memory and storage. So I'm going to close out of this now, and now, again, I'd mentioned earlier that I wasn't going to be using OBS Studio to do a screen record because I wanted you guys to see the actual performance that I'm getting from this without having it bog down the computer a little bit by running actual software in the background. So if I open up Premiere Pro, and I have one of my earlier videos already installed and put on here that I took off of my old computer, and right away when I tested this out, there was a huge difference. I was easily able to just scrub through the entire video. As you can see, if I stop and I can play it, it plays back seamlessly. I don't have to run any proxies whatsoever to get this to run this smoothly. This is just right out of the box. I plugged in all the videos, and as you can see, just playing it, there is no lag whatsoever. You can see even down here when I look at this, you can see proxy status offline. That's because when I transfer this over, I did actually have a proxy attached to it, but I never hooked those up, so these aren't actually working, and those proxy files aren't on the computer on this one. And also, if I zoom this out a little bit on this timeline, you can see that there are probably close to 100 different clips inside of here between all the different ones. And if I stop and just play it, there is, again, no lag whatsoever. So one of the things that stood out the most to me was when I exported this and I tried it the first time on this computer, and this exported the video in about 1 minute and 45 seconds. Now on my HP, this took about 45 minutes. So there was a huge difference. But I'm just going to show you that real quickly. I'll go into File, I'll go into Export, I'll click on Media, and I'm just going to do Match Source, Adaptive High Bitrate. And I'm going to go ahead and just click on Export. And you can see how quickly this is actually going. It says estimated time remaining 1 minute and 12 seconds. This blew my mind when I saw this, and it actually rendered it in under 2 minutes. This will save me so much time. So I'll go ahead and open up Blender now, and I'll show you how well this actually performs when doing some sculpting. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to delete these initial cubes. I'm just going to go ahead and go into Add Mesh, and I'm just going to add a UV sphere. Now from here, if I go into sculpting, if I turn on my stats, you can see right here on the upper left-hand corner, you can see the faces is 512, vertices 482. I'll bring this out a little bit better so you can see. But if I click R on the keyboard, this will actually remesh it. And if I remesh this, let's go pretty small. Let's go 0.007. I'll go to that, I'll hit Control R, and I'll remesh. And this has already remeshed it like instantly. And you can see now that the face is 383,000. And I can sculpt on this just fine. I'm actually going to shrink that down a little bit more. Let's go down to 0.0045. I'll click Remesh. And the smaller you get, it takes a little bit longer, but you can see this is still instantly, and now it's 926,000. So I'm almost at 1 million. I'll remesh this again. Let's go a little bit farther. I'll go to 0.002. I'll click Remesh, and again, you can see the mouse move, but it hasn't picked it up yet. So it might take a second. And now you can see here that now we're at 4.5 million. And if I go to sculpt on this, there's still no lag at all. It still sculpts pretty much perfectly. If I change brushes, I can draw on it some more like that. I can grab the grab brush, resize this, pull it out, things like that. I can probably even go a little bit smaller. Let's go to 0.00150. And we'll click Remesh. Now, the smaller you make this, it will take a little bit longer just because it's going to, and it's got to add in that many more vertices. But once it's done, we'll see how many faces and everything we have with that, and we'll see if it still sculpts just as fine. So I'm still waiting. This is still real time. And I don't know if you can hear that, but the fan did kick in on the CPU. And that just finished now. And as you can see, now I have 8 million. And if I go to grab this, there's still pretty much no lag at all. Let's go into, I'll go back into Draw, shrink this down a little bit, and I can still draw on this. If I zoom in, you can see how fine the details get. If I click on this little wire brush, you can see how fine of detail this is. Now, you really aren't going to need that fine of detail for the most part, but you never know, and depending on what you're sculpting, you may need to get some super small detail in there just in case. So yeah, but knowing that I can sculpt with that fine detail is, really nice. Now, I also wanted to try this with a pen that I picked up with it, and I'm just going to open up, Microsoft Whiteboard, and I'm just going to kind of show you how well this pen works. And I can easily draw on this. It does have 4,096 levels of pressure sensitivity, so if I push a little harder, you can see that it does pick that up. If I push really light, it is nice and smooth. I can use a little button on here to erase it. So this is really nice. I'm barely pushing on here, and you can see how well it picks it up. You know, we can just draw a little face, little eyes, you know, little eyebrows, maybe an ear. And give him a little bit of hair, you know, something like that. There you go, there's a little masterpiece. But this pen does work really, really well. Okay guys, so here I am quickly over on my HP, and I'm just gonna kind of show you that when I go and try and scrub through here, you can see how slow it kind of tries to move to get anywhere farther down the timeline. Now it does play back just fine for the most part, but that is because I am using proxies on this one, but it's still just trying to scrub through and go back and forth. You see how slow it tries to go, and it just can't really keep up. Now, if I didn't have the proxies turned on, that would be even slower. When I go and hit play, it just won't load right away. It's gonna take a minute. All right, so there was just some quick examples of how well this performs on both Premiere Pro and Blender. Now, I won't go into talking about any games or frames per second or anything like that, because that's not really what I cared about when it came to buying this machine. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to test the battery on this, and for this I'm just going to unplug it. I'm going to hit play on YouTube and let it play Jumanji the Next Level and just kind of let it run in the background, and we're going to see how long this actually will run for before it hits 20%. So right now it says it's 3:01, so I'm just going to go ahead and unplug this. We'll hit play. You can see it does show in the corner. I don't know if you can tell, but I am at 100% right now. So the battery saver just kicked in. It says there's 18% remaining. It says 25 minutes, and that's with battery saver on. So we're looking at, it's been about an hour and a half, and that's just streaming, you know, a video on YouTube. So here's my first thoughts and impressions on using this laptop now for about a week. So first, the speed and performance just blew away the HP that I have been using by a long shot. I do like the fact that this is upgradable, and that made the choice that much easier to purchase. I can easily install more RAM, upgrade the hard drive, or even use a different video card like the NVIDIA RTX 4090 by connecting it to the XG mobile port. For the speed and performance that's packed into this laptop, it's still lightweight and relatively slim. It easily transforms into a tablet for drawing or sculpting, or you can prop it up like a table tent for gaming. That's also compatible with the wireless gamepad. The stylus works great also. It's got 4096 levels of pressure sensitivity. It's easy Bluetooth connecting with just a push of this top button up here. It's got 2 side buttons. It also comes with different nibs if you want to change those out as well. I like that it has 2 USB-A ports, so I don't have to use connectors to attach certain devices like an extra mouse or something like that, but it also has a USB-C that's also capable of charging the laptop if you don't have your power cord available. I think this display is fantastic. It is using the ROG Nebula HDR display, which is built with mini LEDs for a deeper contrast and higher brightness than typical LED panels. It does have 1100 nits of peak brightness, which if you're not really sure what that means, basically a higher number of nits indicates a brighter display, which is useful for viewing content in bright environments or for HDR content that requires a high level of contrast and brightness. Now this laptop doesn't get extremely hot when I'm using it or burn my legs like the HP did. It's got plenty of fans and liquid metal thermal compound to help keep it cool. Now the fans will make a little bit of noise when they kick on, but I'll take that all day over it burning my legs. So now I'll talk about a few things I think could be a little bit better. First, I would have to say probably the keyboard. The keyboard's going to take a little bit of getting used to. Since I'm used to using the HP, I find myself hitting the caps lock button on accident instead of the A key. Now it's really not a bad thing, it just feels a little bit different when I'm typing. Second, I think the built-in audio and video camera aren't the greatest, but considering I really won't be using it much for that, it's not really a huge concern of mine. I can easily connect an external camera or mic if I want better audio and video. So also, the speakers are just okay. I think the speakers on my HP sounded a lot better, but that's just my opinion. Now, they aren't bad by any means. I just think they could be a little bit better. So I think the speakers are pretty good, but I think the ones on my HP sounded a little bit better, but that's just my opinion. So I'll hit play so you can hear a sample of it, but keep it in mind you are hearing it through an external mic that I will just put kind of right next to it, so it's not going to sound exactly the same as hearing it in person.
Spencer and his grandson?
Yes, Spencer.
He's here too?
Yes.
He's here and we gotta find him.
So it's like a hide-and-go-seek situation.
So there you have it. I think it sounded really good, but I still think it could be a little bit better. And compared to my HP, I do still think the HP does sound better on their speakers. So one more thing I think could be a little bit better about this is the battery life. Now, the battery life isn't the greatest, but for the power and speed you're getting, again, I'll take that over battery life all day. You will need to have this plugged in though if you want to use certain features like turbo mode inside of Armory Crate to get that better performance. So overall, I am quite happy with this laptop. It is a little pricey, but if you're like me and you're looking for a 2-in-1 laptop that is powerful enough for video editing and still want to do digital sculpting or drawing on without worrying that your computer will bog down or run really slow, then you probably won't find a better laptop than this one, at least not that I'm currently aware of at the moment. Now, I am hoping that Asus will make a new model next year that does include the RTX 4090 built in, but until then, I'll be using this for a very long time. Now, this laptop is also available in a few different models with a few different specs, like the RTX 4060 instead of the 4070, if you want to save a little bit of money without a huge difference in performance. You can also get the smaller X13 with the Ryzen 9 7940HS CPU processor, but for me personally, I prefer the larger screen, which is why I opted for the X16. So one more thing I want to mention about Asus is their customer service was top-notch. I did have an issue when I placed the order on their website, and the discount I tried to apply just didn't go through and for some reason was removed when I went to hit pay. Now, I contacted them via email and they quickly responded and the discount was refunded. Now, it was only for $50, but that adds up when you're already paying, $2,400. I did also receive the laptop within 4 days from ordering it from FedEx, so to me, that's pretty quick. So if you are interested in picking up this laptop, I will put a link down in the description on where you can get this. Now, I definitely would recommend this for anyone that's interested in a 2-in-1 laptop like this one that does have enough power and performance to handle probably everything you're going to need. But that's going to be it for this video, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, ring the bell, get notified of all the new videos that come out, and as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.